Normally, I would be doing this at 1 p.m. However, I was doing some volunteering today, so it was a little bit later. But I hope everybody's doing well. These Friday streams, I don't discuss anything in particular. Rather, we just hang out and talk about whatever we want when it comes to Freemasonry. Unfortunately, I don't have my laptop with me, so I can't add anything to the chat. So rather, I'm just going to have to wait and see who joins. And as I was saying, let me know if you have any thoughts on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral. I'd love to hear them. Mystical 905, welcome. How's it going? I hope you're doing well. Let me know what's new and exciting in your life. And by the way, Mystical, I don't know if you've seen this, but I do now have the super chat available. So why not give a super chat of $1 just for fun? I want to remind everybody that coming up, let me know how you can hear me too, Mystical. Coming up, I have a 24-hour live stream on October 21st till October 22nd at 2 p.m. Starting 2 p.m. the 21st, going to 2 p.m. the 22nd. We're going to start with Masonic ghost stories and then move from there. So if you know of any Masonic ghost stories, please let me know at info@squareandcompass.ca. Also, good. And let me know in the meantime if you have any thoughts on Freemasonry, anything you want to talk about when it comes to Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral. This is going to be a relatively shorter stream than usual. However, I'll still want to give it at least an hour or so to see who joins. I was spending the morning with my friends Akfo Weck doing a bingo at All-Star Gaming, so that was really fun. Well, we're going to have those stories on the 21st. On October 19th through the 20th, I am going to be doing a Good Witch live stream marathon, so maybe you guys can join me for that as well. In November 2028, so we're moving into the future. I see what's happening here. I like it. Evening, Dylan. How is it going? I hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here. I hope you'll take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button and let me know how it's going. Well, you already hit the subscribe button. No, hit the like button, I should say. Let me know how you're doing and let me know how your evening is going. And don't forget, Sunday on my personal YouTube channel, I've got my Good Witch Marathon. And then on the 21st, 24-hour live stream. I would take the Democrats over what we got now, but that's just me. That's just my opinion. I'm also not Canadian. I'm not American, I'm Canadian. So I guess I don't really have a dog in the fight per se. Well, then there you go. That'll be my very first ghost story. If you want me to read that as a ghost story, Mystical, you first need to give a super chat on the 21st. But I do hope everybody is doing well. And as always, I just give it a bit of time and let's wait to see who joins. No worries, Dylan. I say that, it's become, honestly, I'm probably saying it too much, I suspect. It's become almost like a nervous tick that I just say it all the time because I don't know who's jumping in and off the stream. So my concern is if I don't say it every 10 minutes or so, people won't hear me say it. Thank you, Mr. Keeps. I am away from my normal location. I am actually inside the Windsor Masonic Temple because I had to, on the top floor, because I did not have a chance to make it home in time. So I figured I'd do it from here. Annie Rudd. Hello. Unfortunately, you can hear the sounds coming from the street, but that's okay. Mr. Keeps, how's it going? Deathstark? Yes, I mean, I've got a lot of videos featuring the Windsor Masonic Temple, so if you get the chance, I'd encourage you guys to check out some of those videos. Maybe I'll post some online on social media, just the link so you guys can find them easy enough. Slow Fridays are nice. I love slow Fridays myself. I like slow days in general. I mean, too many of them in a row can get boring. However, I would say if you don't have enough slow days, that can become pretty overwhelming as well, and burnout. Good for you, Dad, on A, doing your exercises, and B, getting your shots. I've actually got booked for my shots. I've got them on October 29th. It's a good time for me to get all this stuff done because I am without my passport for the next, 20 days or so. I applied online for passport renewal, which means I can no longer use my old passport. So no more traveling to the States for a little bit. So I'm using that time to catch up on a bunch of things here, like getting my shots done, getting paperwork done, finally doing some spreadsheets of all my income and expenses. Speaking of, thank you to everybody who's been super chatting, especially Mr. Keeps, for the income. By the way, Mr. Keeps, I was told, and I didn't double check this, but I was advised that Canada Post has started delivering mail again 3 days a week. So I did put your special commemorative postcard in the mail slot to be picked up. So if they're not delivering it, then it's just safe there until they start up once again. Do they come to your place for the shots, Dad, or do you go there? I'm assuming that they come to your apartment complex to do it. And by the way, on a side note, credit to Canadian government. I know it's always strange to give credit to the government. However, I'm going to. This is my first time ever renewing my passport online. And I found it really simple. It took me less time than it would take me to actually have to fill out the papers and drop them off at the location. Getting a digital copy of my picture was really easy. So yeah, I'm really curious, honestly. And one day, I may try to do an actual study of this. But I am really curious as to what percentage of active, and again, I always differentiate between active or engaged and disengaged members, as Mr. Keeps talked about yesterday with me on the stream. But what percentage of engaged Masonic members have a current passport or have a current library card? I know it sounds really strange, but my suspicion is if you're an engaged member attending regularly or semi-regularly, my suspicion is you probably have an active passport and you probably have an active library card. That's just a suspicion. Okay, good. Skincare. What's wrong with my skin? I will admit, I am the worst at taking care of myself in terms of skincare. I'm the worst at just taking care of myself in general in that stuff. I've always been super, super lazy when it comes to self-care in terms of skincare. I could never, I don't know if anybody has watched the movie or read the book American Psycho with Patrick Bateman, but there's that morning routine he has where he is what's the word I'm looking? He's talks about his morning routine, and it's like he wakes up, he spends X amount of time in the shower. He has 3 different types of shampoos. He has 3 different types of moisturizers and a face cleanse, and his aftershave has this brand. That seems like my own personal version of hell. I cannot lie to you. If I had to spend an hour getting ready in the morning with 3 different types of moisturizers, I just couldn't do it. That would drive me psycho. Thank you, I'm going to just call you Member. Thank you, Member. I appreciate that. Well, I'm very sorry, Colonizer, that you're mad. I hope that maybe being on the stream makes you feel a little bit better. I hope I can make you feel better. Or at least not as angry, for whatever it's worth. Yeah, 2-hour morning routine. Are you saying that's what you do, Mr. Keeps? Or are you saying that's what they did in American Psycho? Because I can't remember how long his routine was. But if I had to do a 2-hour morning routine, it would last 2 days. And getting me to brush my teeth is as far as it goes. The fact to keep my hair short is even too long for me right now, is because if I had to comb my hair or deal with my hair on a regular basis, I'd lose my mind. 30 minutes is yes. 30 minutes is fair. I call 30 minutes reasonable. The Patrick Bateman routine, it's no wonder he went psycho. I would go psycho if I had that morning routine. I agree with Dad. Soap and water is all you need. I think Mr. Keeps is right. I think 15 minutes is 15 minutes. So 45 altogether if you count clipping the hair or beard. I think that's perfectly fine. By the way, on a very sad note, I lost my, I'm very sad to say, I lost my old mug, the travel mug I had with this Masonic picture on the front, or sticker on the front. I love that mug, so I've lost it, so I had to get this one from Tim Hortons. It was 30% off, to its credit. America is all we need. I do not agree with that, Dex. I'm very happy to be Canadian. I like America. I think they're great neighbors, but I would not want to be America. Having said that, Dex, welcome. Please hit the like and subscribe button and let me know how it is going. Whose streets are not cracked? I travel to the States fairly regularly, not presently, as again, I'm waiting for my passport, which I should get mid-November, according to the timeline, and I fly out on November 23rd, Dad, to the Grand Lodge of Scotland. So there you go. I got about 9 or 10 days leeway from when I'm supposed to get my passport to when I'm supposed to travel. I was a little bit nervous because it did seem a little bit tight, but I think 10 days is good enough. 7 to 10 days is good enough. Spencer Carter, welcome. Thank you for being here. When you say little blue book, I'm not quite sure to what you're referring, because we have our ritual books, which are actually black, and they are, in Ontario, it's the ritual in the first 3 degrees, which you receive after you become a Master Mason. Before that, we have, you receive a copy of the bylaws and the Constitution, which actually our bylaws are little blue books. And if you're an entered apprentice or a fellowcraft, you get a little pamphlet, either white or yellow, and again, Ontario, and that gives you the information you need to advance, but doesn't give you the entirety of the degree information, because for that you need to get your 3rd degree. And then we also have a blue book for installation, which goes to past masters exclusively. Amin, hello from Iran. Hello, thank you for being here. It's wonderful to have somebody from Iran joining us. Okay, yeah, we get, ours is white, but actually some Masonic bylaws books are blue, so. Thank you, Amin, I truly appreciate it. Powerpuff says, no, it's not. I do not know what you're referring to, what it is not, but thank you for being here nonetheless. And I hope that you are doing well. Amin, I hope you hit the like and subscribe button. Again, Nathan, I'm not going to confirm nor deny whether there is or is not a secret handshake. For that, you have to join. Oh, you do need a passport. Maybe you shouldn't need one, but you do need one nonetheless. So, which is okay. I don't mind. And like I said, I've got 7 to 10 days of leeway from when I'm supposed to get my passport to when I'm supposed to travel. The reason I got it renewed is because it really is best practices if you travel frequently or even semi-frequently to make sure you keep your passport 6 months or more from expiring. So don't wait until you're within a 6-month time frame of expiration to get it renewed. Best practices for travel is you should get your passport renewed when you still have more than 6 months left. A lot of overseas places, certainly in the Middle East, for example, but also I think in Asia and the Philippines, if your passport expires within 6 months, they won't accept you. They'll put you on a plane right back. Yes, you did try. You did try, Nathan. Sorry, you failed. I wish I could tell you that if you gave me a super chat, I would tell you the secrets, but I would not. Not even for a super chat. So I guess you'll just never know. You will not be. You will not be. You will not even be shunned in polite society. You'll not even be shunned on the stream, though I'd prefer you didn't find out unless you joined. At the end of the day, a ton of people have put these secrets online. So the thing to keep in mind, though, is if you're not a Freemason, but you are searching and trying to learn about Freemasonry online, you're not going to know. You're going to see stuff that's true. You're also going to see stuff that's not true. And if you are not a Mason, you're not going to know which is which. So that's something that you need to keep in mind when it comes to this stuff. But I hope everybody is doing well. Amin, let me know how you're doing from Iran. Actually, it's really cool. And again, I think, honestly, this might not seem it, but I think this constitutes a Masonic discussion. I believe Masons should have active passports. And Dad, you mentioned before that you do not have a library card, which you're older. It doesn't shock me that you wouldn't have a library card, but you do have a passport that's active, right? My suspicion is active Masons or engaged members will have either an active passport or an active library card or both, is my suspicion. Because I think that demonstrates a desire to be part of the institutions of the community or of the country. So it's really cool. When you get your photo taken at Staples, which I did, they give you two options. They will either print out a physical picture for you to have, or they'll give you a card, and on the card it has a code on it. You put the code in your computer, it takes you to a website, you enter in another password that they give you, and then you download it right on your computer. Super convenient, super easy. No issues at all. A lot of people might not be comfortable renewing online, which I understand because you got to get another account, you got to get another password to keep in track of, because you have to apply through a certain government account. But I think it's worth it, in my own humble opinion. When you say, so we have what are called dues cards. A lot of Masonic jurisdictions in 2025 are putting their dues cards as virtual dues cards instead of in person, like physical. They have it virtually and you download it. But I do have a virtual dues card, but I also, for all 5 of my lodges, have physical dues cards, I should say. So both hard and soft copies. I think both have their place, but I do think I think if you're joining a lodge, you should get both a virtual dues card and a physical dues card. I think both are necessary. Well, that's cool, Steve. You install that shower head, buddy. But also, that should not stop you from doing a super chat of even just $1 whole. Apple tree is back. I hope the apple did not fall far from the tree. How is it going? And Lon, welcome. I hope you're doing well also. That's the thing. You're absolutely right, Spencer. You will find a lot of stuff, most of it wrong. The danger is if you're not a Freemason, you're never going to know for sure what's correct and what's incorrect. And that is the challenging part of the whole thing. I've heard about Freemason emojis. But Lon, welcome. And yes, I am drinking coffee in my new Tim Hortons mug. It was 30% off at least, so that's nice. Steve Bano, I should have saw that coming a mile away. You're always in with the jokes. I'm not even going to remove that one. I'm just going to say no one should pay too much attention to Steve Bano with his jokes. I should have seen that coming. It's my own fault. If anybody has any questions or thoughts or comments on Freemasonry, please let me know. Positive, negative, or neutral? Well, trust but verify, Dad, right? Trust but verify. I'm always warning newer Masons, do not rely on or do not think that just because someone is wearing a ring or a pendant or a shirt with the Masonic symbol on it that they're automatically Freemasons. And even if they have a dues card, don't, take a few moments to look at it closely. Don't just let them wave it in front of you. Actually read it, see what it says, see what lodge it says, see if it's a legitimate lodge. It is possible to forge dues cards. You do have to be a little bit careful. I haven't seen it, Mystical. Haven't seen it. Obviously, I'm interested because it's a Stephen King movie. Well, it's based on a Stephen King book, and I loved The Long Walk, and I love a lot of Stephen King works. So, obviously, I'm very interested, but haven't seen it yet. As opposed to, I'm not sure what you mean by that, Steve Banno. I mean, everything in Freemasonry is made up by humans, but everything everywhere is made up by humans. I don't know if you mean like, are they religiously inspired? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I mean, or are you talking about the conspiracy ideas that you sometimes hear about aliens in Freemasonry? Sorry, Steve, I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. But yes, everything within Freemasonry was developed by humans, most of it in the 16th and 17th and 18th centuries, with modifications as the years and decades went on. What do you think of King Solomon? Well, as a Freemason, obviously King Solomon plays a role in much of our ritual and ceremony. So the mythical and ceremonial figure, I have a great deal of respect for. I do not know how much the biblical or the popular figure of King Solomon represents the real King Solomon. Like, who was he as a historical figure? Right? So I think from a Masonic perspective, I admire many of the stories of King Solomon. I admire his wisdom. Mostly, I admire the fact that he used and employed stonemasons to build a great monument. In my opinion, it was a monument to stonemasonry, his temple, more so than anything else. Though he would obviously, I think, say it was a monument to God. I view it more as a monument to stonemasonry and operative masonry. He is certainly a very important part, as King Solomon, of Masonic ceremony. Not exclusively, not the exclusive part. We have Muslim symbolism, Judaic symbolism, ancient Chinese mythology fits in there, Egyptian mythology, but Solomon is a part of it, that's for sure. Are all gods made up of humans? Well, Steve, I'll get to that in 1 second. It's interesting when you say that, Nathan. It wasn't abandoned. I mean, there are still Masons, like operative Masons, that exist. Operative Masons, you can look in the phone book and find stonemasons who will do everything from, build you a house to patch up your chimney to put stone in your sidewalk. So stonemasonry wasn't abandoned, it still exists. However, the reason that it became less, the reason that it grew to be less prominent and the number of stonemasons decreased over the centuries is because other building materials became more plentiful and easier to use, right? And also it became less economically feasible for rulers to build giant castles and giant, sanctuaries and abbeys and temples. People started looking for smaller homes, smaller works, or started using other materials, or just use less stone in their building. And so economically, the demand for stonemasonry reduced, the demand for other types of work increased as building materials changed. I mean, even the development of plaster and plastic completely changed the nature of building and what it meant to be a builder. So, but it hasn't been abandoned. I do think one of our biggest mistakes within Freemasonry is not paying due enough heed to our stonemason forefathers. Well, for me personally, King Solomon is a metaphor that I take to mean wisdom and trying to act in a manner that is wise, that has discernment. That to me is the most important thing within Freemasonry, that I take from King Solomon. And I think most do. Are all gods made up by humans? Well, Steve, you'd have to ask humans. So I believe in a supreme being. I believe the supreme being is not made up by humans, but is rather discovered by humans, and is discovered by humans through rationality and science and scientific inquiry. And I believe it is through that we discover the supreme being. So, it's kind of like asking, is math invented or discovered? Math is not invented. To my mind, math is a supreme being. It is discovered. The same thing I think someone who, let's say, is Christian would say, man does not invent God, rather man discovers God. I think the difference is, whereas with my supreme being, the primary or exclusive means of discovery is through the scientific method, I think in a Christian or even Muslim or Jewish or most faiths, it's the primary means of discovery is through a leap of faith, is what I think would be the difference between my version of a supreme being and other people's versions of a supreme being from a religious sense. So I don't believe anybody created God. I believe God or a supreme being has existed since before humans. The nature of the supreme being is different, maybe from what I believe to what others believe, and how it is discovered is different as well. But I think every time we discover a new kind of mathematical equation or a new scientific discovery, we are in some ways adding another detail onto the face of God, right? If you had to ask me what is the face of God, I'd say look up at the sky at night. That is the face of God. And what is the language of God? I would say the language of God is silence. All else is a poor translation. I don't understand what that means, Apple Tree. I would disagree, I guess, on matter of principle. I think to be human is to perform rituals. We all have rituals we perform every day, which could just be considered a repetitive action. If you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is, put on your socks and shoes in a certain way, you're engaging in a ritual. What I would also say, though, is there are many types of professions, jobs that require rituals of a sort. You could be Christian and do that as well. I'm not sure why this idea of performing a ritual, what is a marriage if not a ritual, right? And you could say ceremony, but with Freemasonry, we often use the term ceremony and ritual interchangeably, which I think is fair, by the way. I honestly do not. I think you're referring to Masonic rituals, but I've taken part in and witnessed Masonic ritual or Masonic ceremony many, many times. Never seen anything that would indicate to me that you could not perform that ritual and also be of the Christian faith, or of any faith for that matter. I think Savage Indian, you are absolutely correct. I do think there is a difference between a certain type of personal ritual and ritual designed to create bonds through shared experiences. And sometimes it can be both, right? If you're smoking alone when you wake up, that's a personal ritual. If you take a smoke break at work with a few other coworkers and you all get together at the same time, at the same place, then it's a ritual, the purpose of which is to create bonds of brotherhood through shared experiences. I do not believe so, Nathan. I do not believe there is a correct religion. Nor do I necessarily believe there is an incorrect religion. I think to the extent that a religion helps individuals find peace and comfort and a moral center within their life, then it is a correct religion. And that's often going to probably be more a determination of how they interpret their religion more so than what actually it is. 90% of the time, what matters is not, what's written on the page, what's written in the holy book. Rather, it's how it is interpreted. At least that's often been my experience. Because I've known some Christians, or at least people who profess to be Christians, who have said some stuff that it did not seem to me was well interpreted based on my understanding of Christianity. But I've known others who also claim to be Christians who have a completely different interpretation of it, right? Same thing with Freemasonry, for that matter, which is not a religion, but I've known Freemasons who have wildly differing interpretations of what it means to be a Freemason. Well, I don't think anyone is right about it all, right? I think that's the point. I don't think it's about being right or wrong. I think if being a Mormon brings somebody a sense of peace and happiness and a moral center, and they act in the world in a manner that is moral and good to those around them, then I think Mormonism is correct, at least correct for them. Whether they're actually right or not is a whole other can of tuna. I've been part of a few Masonic smudging ceremonies and a part of a few non-Masonic smudging ceremonies. So, yeah, and it's a great example of something. It brings people peace, brings people comfort, helps remind them to act in a certain manner. I don't know if I've known any. I've known a Mormon. I think I've just known one Mormon my whole life, at least that I knew was a Mormon. I'm sure I've met more on my travels, right? I don't ask people what their religion is when I first meet them. But at least the one Mormon I know of to be a Mormon doesn't scare me at all. Get your shots, Dad. Get your shots, and thank the people giving the shots on my behalf for keeping you healthy and trying to keep you okay. Well, so Satanism, the Fat Muppet, that question comes up a fair bit. What I'd say is I've never met a satanic Freemason. I once knew one individual who advised he wanted to join Freemasonry, and when I asked him why, he said because he was a Satanist. I said, I don't think you'll find what you're looking for here. But he came, he met, we talked, and after learning about what Freemasonry was, he decided he did not want to join. So, in my experience, Satanism and Freemasonry, or Satanism is not something that can be connected with or congruent with Freemasonry. I can't describe the ritual in terms of what happens. I can describe the ritual in terms of some general lessons it imparts, like the first degree, I think, can often be seen as representing, in some ways, an entered apprentice stonemason, where you're learning the basics. It's almost like childhood, like the first stage of life, the first stage of anything, the first steps that you take in any endeavor. It's about learning. It's about coming into it with very little, and remembering that if you ever find yourself in need of charity, or if you ever find somebody else asking for charity. The Crusaders I'm actually currently watching Kingdom of Heaven, starring Orlando Bloom. So you're not wrong. It is a very interesting part of history. I haven't finished watching yet, but I like it very much, The Fat Muppet. I think it's actually a really awesome movie. I'm really enjoying it. It's amazing how if I recall correctly, I think Kingdom of Heaven took place in like the 15th century. No, earlier than that. I think the 11th or 12th centuries, if I recall correctly. And here we are about 1,000 years later or something, and we're still having, the exact same, or not the exact same, but we're still having the same fights in the same land over the same things with the same kind of religious and cultural issues. It's crazy to think how some things never change. One of my favorite quotes, I used to really like The West Wing, the TV show. I still do. And there's this quote where President Bartlett says, he was talking about a teacher one of his students had. And the teacher asked the students, the Middle East always seems to be in conflict. Why is that the case? And then one student said, well, it's always been the case because it's a very, it's an area full of diverse religions and diverse cultures, and those cultures often clash because of political and religious disagreements that go back thousands of years. And the teacher said, wrong. It's because the Middle East is very hot and there's no water. And in some ways, I think that gets to the heart of more generally this idea of like, sometimes we overcomplicate it. At the end of the day, you have an area that is incredibly hot, has no water, has, you know, massive amounts of oil. Sometimes it's just the nature of a place to potentially be, or to potentially incite more emotions and greater levels of conflict, perhaps. And human beings are naturally kind of conflict-oriented ourselves often anyways. Well, no, but the thing is, everybody in that region has fought, right? That's the point. The Christians who were there fought, Jewish people fought, Arabs fought. Everybody in that region constantly seems to be at war with one another, not a particular group. And maybe the point is, it really does come down to as simple as battling over scarce resources, right? When you put away all the religious and all the cultural trappings, you have an area that in some ways is resource rich, with oil, for example. In other ways is very resource poor, with very little water. And those things probably produce as much conflict as anything else. Why was the New World so violent for so many years upon Europeans arriving, and even before? Because it's resource, in some ways it's very resource rich, but in other ways people were fighting for those resources, and there's never enough for everybody. Well, I'm just riffing right now, Apple Tree, but well, so Crusaders are not the original Freemasons, Apple Tree. You've been watching too much National Treasure, right? Crusaders predate Freemasons by about 500 years, give or take. Certainly when Freemasonry was formed, and particularly when the York Rite was being formed, they borrowed, is the polite way to put it, or stole, is the not so nice way to put it, a whole bunch of different symbols from the Crusades and from the Crusaders for various reasons, but that's not to say it's a direct line of union from one to the other. He wasn't even that young in the movie, The Fat Muppet, in fairness. It is worldwide, Dad. I'm sure there's places where it's not, but almost everywhere I've been, it's worldwide. Welcome, Smokey. Thank you for being here. Well, the argument would be, we created hell. If you don't believe in religion of any sort, then you would believe that hell doesn't exist and rather was created as part of religious creation, or the creation of religions as a way to encourage religious belief. But I would say, probably as a concept, there is some version of hell. I just don't know exactly what that would be. To me, hell would be a world that is irrational, where there is no cause and effect, where everything is completely arbitrary and on the whims of something beyond our control. That seems pretty terrible to me. It's not in the floor, Lewis. It's on a table. No worries. Can you not hear me well, or does it just look well? It's banned in a few countries, Nathan. Iran, I understand it's banned in. Qatar. Although in Qatar, actually, Freemasonry, and Dubai as well, I believe, Freemasonry does exist. It just exists on the military bases, on American military bases. It's a modern example of the ancient practice of Freemasonry extending through military bases. I also understand Freemasonry is banned in mainland China, though it does exist in Hong Kong and Macau. No worries, Smokey. I appreciate being here. And don't forget, for everybody watching this, coming up this week actually, October 21st, 24-hour live stream. I don't, Mr. Keeps, I don't know. Well, in Scottish Rite, they talk about the true name and trying to find the true name. But if you're asking me what I personally believe, again, because I'm not Christian, I wouldn't want to say. I think that you'd have to ask a Christian theologian. Masonically speaking, in some degrees, there is a discussion of the lost word or the lost name. What it is, you have to learn Scottish Rite to find that out. Well, Freemasonry of any form or any group definitely does not predate Christ. Freemasonry comes far after. Stonemasonry, building things from stones, predates Christ. It predates humans, if you count our hominid ancestors. Well, they banned it for a few different reasons, Smokey. Primarily, they ban it as a way to, it was often banned in either communist or totalitarian governments, like Nazi Germany banned it as well, because the belief is that oftentimes it's because Freemasonry emphasizes democracy and power, and as the one ethical way to have power in a society is if it's democratically elected power or democratically granted. Obviously, that's going to go against totalitarian states or states that believe power should be derived from religious doctrines or religious fundamentalism. And also, some governments found it an easy target. For example, Hitler, when he banned it, he found it an easy target to attack, to create enemies out of, to link it with Judaism as well. And in some cases, they don't like the fact that there's a private nature to the ceremonies. And in a more totalitarian style government, they want to know everything about the individual, including, the actions of his groups to which he may belong. So usually one of those three reasons. Hello, EA Freemason. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here. It's all about the pool of knowledge. Again, Solomon is an important part of Masonic ritual, but he's not. I mean, what we know about King Solomon, you would know about King Solomon if you read the Bible. There's nothing in there that we know that others don't. It's how we maybe use it in a philosophical sense to kind of imply our morals, but the knowledge is there for anybody who's Christian, right? There's really the secrets in Freemasonry really are exclusively modes of recognition, right? Which is ways we can identify other Masons, and that only matters to you if you are a Mason and want to meet a brother and confirm he is a brother. The rest of it, I mean, there are things I don't talk about because to me, I really feel as though if I talk about it, it dilutes the bond I have with my brothers, more so than anything else. By the way, Smokey, I did say this, but on the weekend, I mailed your postcard, so hopefully you get it soon. If you don't get it in 2 weeks, let me know. Hopefully soon enough. Awesome, EA. Keep us informed. I don't know. I wouldn't say again, Nathan. I think you're being a little bit too unkind. I don't see why hell, at least as a concept or a metaphor, cannot exist as more than simply a tool, but as in some ways a warning. I think the extent to which it is a real, like, physical place that you could get to kind of before passing away or anything, I don't know if I believe that per se. Again, I think hell, if you're to ask me to define my version of hell, it would be a world that is irrational, a world where there is no cause and effect, a world where every action has an arbitrary and unpredictable result. I think that would be a pretty strong version of hell, personally. It's interesting because that might actually be very similar to a fundamentalist kind of Christian idea of hell, because for me, I've said before, my supreme being is the rational order and nature of the universe as expressed through mathematical and scientific inquiry. And the mathematical equations which govern the universe are an example of the face of God, or the face of the supreme being. So when I say, to me, hell would be to exist in a world without cause and effect and which is completely irrational, that is like me saying hell would be to exist in a place where there is separation from God. And to my understanding, and anybody on the stream who's religious can kind of let me know if I'm getting this right, to my knowledge, what most Christians would say is, for them, hell is separation from God, right? It is to be in a place in which you are separated from God, I think is how they would put it. So in some ways, I might have a very, very Christian view of hell. It's just the God from which we're separated is different. Oof. Well, that's very, I think you might be right in some ways, Nathan, with that. I think that's possible. If I went to the doctors and they described my ailment as looking at the gates of hell, I would be concerned, but also smirk a little bit, because at least they are illustrative. Louis says voodoo. Are you asking if Freemasons can believe in voodoo? I think they could. Like, I don't know a lot about the voodoo faith, so I don't want to say too much about it, but if they believe in a supreme being, they could, if voodoo is a belief in a supreme being, then I would be comfortable with them joining. Like, I know I've said this before, but I do know a couple Freemasons who describe themselves as Wiccan, Wiccan. They told me that their volume of the Sacred Law was actually some specialized gemstones for them, in the same way a First Nations uses an eagle feather. Now, I understand Wiccan and voodoo are not the same thing. So, again, I don't know if someone who practices voodoo could be a Freemason, because I don't know the tenets of their belief. My suspicion is it's possible, but that's just a suspicion. I would need to actually see it take place and know what the test study is. Good, Smoky. Well, not good, but good. I'm never going to be happy that someone has to have surgery. However, I will also be happy that at least I know that by having the surgery, you can hopefully start on the road to recovery. All right, we've been doing this stream for about 48 minutes. These streams are going to be much shorter because I have a bunch of stuff to get ready, because it's going to be a very busy weekend. So I still have to do a lot of errands, running around. It's not too late, Apple Tree. Do a dollar super chat. Do a 50-cent super chat. Why not? Live your life on the edge, Well, I'm glad that you're doing pretty well, except for the latter. Except for it's my wrestling shirt, Can-Am Wrestling. As people sometimes know about me, I am also involved with professional wrestling. Well then, Apple Tree, you will never super chat, which is okay with me. I know I say it a lot because one thing I read in my researches is I will never, quote unquote, show anything in order to get a super chat. So anything I will say about Freemasonry, I will say whether whether you super chat or not. That's not going to change the information I provide. So in that case, it's still just great to have you here. Well, that sounds vaguely threatening, Apple Tree, but fair enough. Maybe I will. I don't know what the penny would be, but maybe I will. Is that a biblical reference? I'm not sure what you mean. Trusty horse across the water. I don't think I've ever heard that before. For me, Freemasonry has been a pretty trusty horse. It's been a pain in my ass, don't get me wrong. There's been many times it's been incredibly challenging and difficult. It's also been Freemasonry, again, I try not to sugarcoat it and talk about it like it's all been wonderful and great and super fun. There's some challenges because I love it. And because I love it, it means I dedicate so much of myself to it and my life to it. And when you dedicate yourself and your life to something, it's really, really, really hard. It's okay though, right? That's worth it. It being really hard is worth it in some ways. Never, you're not wrong, Apple Tree. You should never say never. I don't disagree with that. I will do my best to maintain the never that I said. You did, Smokey. You did. I hope everybody's doing well. Thank you for being here, as always. If you are just joining us, thank you. Hope you'll take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button. Do not forget, please, and thank you. Do not forget that on this weekend, starting on Sunday, on my personal YouTube channel, I will be doing a Good Witch marathon on youtube.com/Cameron Adamson. I'm going to be watching Good Witch in honor of Halloween, and also in honor of Freemasonry in a way, and I'll talk about that. I'm going to start it Sunday around 12 noon, and going to go till watch all 7 seasons if I can. Honestly, there's not been a ton of episodes, so I could probably do it in less than a day. Well, less than a day. Monday, I'm not going to have any live stream except for a very brief one, Tuesday, 1 a.m., because Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday, October 21st at 2 p.m. Eastern till October 22nd, 2 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be doing a 24-hour live stream. So yeah, thank you, Smokey. That's incredibly kind. I am happy about it as well, and I feel very honored to have received it. So yeah, no, I'm greatly honored about it as well. So thank you so much. I hope you guys will maybe read what I wrote. If you have, maybe share a link with other people so they can check it out as well. I think it's got good advice for Masons and non-Masons. I think anybody who's part of a group and is concerned about finding more membership, or membership engagement may benefit from it. Thank you, Apple Tree, as well. I appreciate the congratulations very much. That is very kind of you. And yeah, to everybody who has checked out my work, your support is greatly appreciated. All right, we have done this for 54 minutes, so let's go another 5 minutes. Let's just see if anybody else jumps on to say hello before I get started on my many chores. Yes, I sadly lost my other cup, so I got this one. The nice thing with this one, though, is I get 10 cents off refills, so that's something. And it was on sale, 30% off. And it's from Tim Hortons. Yes, I'll send you a link about that. We'll do it maybe another hour stream there, give or take. I just have to double check the time. The time last time we did it was like 3 a.m. Or sorry, 3 a.m., 3 p.m. Does that work well for you again? 3 p.m. on the 29th? 3 p.m. Eastern? Which I don't know what time that would be for you. But at 3 p.m. Eastern works well for me that day. So 5 p.m. Eastern? Okay, so 5 p.m. Eastern would be, I think, like 2 p.m. your time or 3 p.m. your time. Um, I can do that if that works for you. Nice, Courtney. Nice EA Freemason. Okay, but so I'll do 5, you do 4. Makes sense. You've just described my favorite, or you've just named my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie. As I've said a bunch of times on this stream, my favorite movie of all time is also my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie. It's also my favorite horror movie. It's all the same movie. It's either on bright and sunny days. My favorite movie is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master. When it's a colder, rainier, or chillier day or more overcast day, my favorite movie of all time is Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, The Dream Child. And because today it's bright but it's chilly outside, my favorite movie is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, The Dream Child. Well then, you got good taste in movies, EA Freemason. Well, let's go with 5 my time, 4 your time. That's what we'll do. Maybe evening we'll get some more people interested. Good. You should do a movie night at the lodge. You can all watch. A Nightmare on Elm Street. We used to do more movie nights and stuff at lodges. So. I have not, Smokey. I'm not going to lie to you. I have not. Although that movie writes itself, or that rap battle writes itself with their weapons. I am doing well, Oxygen. I hope you're doing well also. Thank you so much for joining us. We do not, nor should we. I'd be very much opposed to that. We don't recruit at all, right? So kickbacks are not really an option in any sense. But no, that's not why you do it, right? You do it. You shouldn't be recruiting at all. You should rather be wanting people to approach you, and you should not be wanting them to join to make you look good. You should be wanting them to join because you think they have something to benefit to the lodge, not you as an individual, but the lodge itself, as well as the lodge may have something to offer them. You ain't prepared for what happens. I'm no doubt that's the case. All right, guys, this has been a lot of fun. We are at the 59-minute mark. I'm going to end this stream an hour. My Friday streams I usually end, relatively shortly. As I noted, though, Sunday through to probably Monday, personal account, YouTube live stream, Good Witch Marathon, and then on the 21st to the 22nd, 24-hour live stream, starting 2 p.m. Eastern, starting with ghost stories. See, it was actually a lodge I visited, Oxygen, not my lodge personally, but a lodge I visited. But I'm sure you guys do it great there. Connections don't get you in Apple Tree. That's not how it works. Certainly, if you know Masons, you're maybe more inclined to want to join. Who knows? Um, but the process is the same whether you know Masons or whether you don't. I had my father, my grandfathers, and the Grand Master were all friends of mine. I saw the exact same process to get in as anybody else. Um, you can. I mean, you're not wrong, Apple Tree. Studying King Solomon isn't the worst idea, but I would say that's kind of putting the cart before the horse, Apple Tree, right? Like when you're first looking at joining Freemasonry, instead of worrying about any of the esoteric stuff, the history, King Solomon, the focus should be at the start, especially on asking yourself the question, how well will I get along with the brethren I will be joining, right? How do I like them? Do I enjoy spending time with them? And then worry about King Solomon afterwards. Okay, Sean, cool. I guess I'm honored to be the first Freemason you met. Hopefully I do a good job at representing Freemasonry well, right? That's my goal. All right, guys, thank you all so much. I will see you all later and have an excellent day, an excellent weekend.